Oh, I have.
I love it.
These are, like, all four of these are fucking bangers.
I like, if these are the only photos that come out of this entire day, it's still fucking I love it. Also,
That I had already in my camera. So I have 4 rounds, and I have 6 black and white and the double on the camera, and I was like,
But we are rolling. Okay. So, could you start by telling us your full name and your pronouns?
My name is Amy Robison, and my pronouns are she, her.
So I feel like publicly most people think of you as a photographer, but how would you describe what you feel like you are as a creative?
I would love it if the first thing that most people thought about publicly about me was photographer. I suspect it's not, but that'd be fine with me. As far as how I would want to be described as a creative, I think that's enough.
Just
Like,
the word creative itself?
Yeah, like it was really hard for me to even call myself an artist, and I didn't really feel like I, had the right to say that for any number of reasons, for all the imposter syndrome reasons that everybody knows, and like others that are specific to me, but not really, because it's the same for everybody. And I didn't start doing that until I was like 40. So calling myself an artist was big enough. Creator is essentially the same thing, and if I can have ownership of any of those words, or if they can be used intermittently or interchangeably to describe what I am and what I put out there, I'm very into that.
How would you describe your relationship with art?
I think that making art is probably the thing that is the most authentic experience in my life that I have on a regular basis. I think that in a lot of days, less these days, but there have been like a lot of strings of time where making art will be the only thing I did that day, or the only thing I did that week. It's like the only thing that got me out of the grind of going to work and coming home and going to sleep, because there have been stretches like that.
And how long has it been like that for you, where you feel like art is that constant in your life?
Well, I mean, my mom tells a story about me getting eye strain when I was like 4 from coloring and drawing in my books. Like blinking a ton and like wouldn't stop, and she was like, knock it off, and I was like, I cannot. And so she took me to an eye doctor, and he was like, she has eye strain, like what is she doing? And my mom was like, coloring, and he was like, a lot, and she was like, I mean like a lot, is like how she tells it. So I guess I was like filling coloring books, and then later I would sit around the table in the basement when I was like, I don't know, 7, 8, and draw outfits, like paper doll style outfits. Like trace my paper doll and then just draw outfits on the figure of her body. And I had like Marilyn Monroe paper dolls, and I was really precious with them. So the clothes that they gave me for them, I didn't even usually cut out. I would like leave them in the book, or like even perforate and cut them out. I would leave them like that. I would just trace her and then just make my own stuff. Bikinis, bunch of interchangeable tops, dresses. Because like once you have the shape of her, that's all you need.
That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah.
Tell me about your earliest photographs.
I used to carry not digital, because it was way before that. I used to carry disposable cameras around when I was in like middle school. And I remember specifically like a group of photos that I have in a box in the closet is a day that me and some friends ditched school, and none of us was old enough to drive, and we took the bus to the city center stop, which is 2 malls that were across from each other. There was like the punk rock mall that I loved, and then there was a skywalk over Main Street right in the middle, right by the temple in the middle of Salt Lake City, and on the other side was the ZCMI Center, which was like the Mormon mall. It had like the Mormon bookstore, and it was like very, very clean, and we very rarely went into that one, But took my camera down there that day and have like pictures of us waiting for the bus and like pictures of us trying on dresses. I was trying on dresses that I didn't have any money to buy in expensive stores when I was 15, ditching school, and taking pictures of my friends and I doing on disposable cameras with like those little bullet bead silver necklaces that were like all tight like chokers from our era because we're the same age. I know you know what I'm talking about. And I had like a thicker like hemp necklace that my friend had made these beads and like painted, and the beads were like woven into the hemp necklace, and I was like, I will wear it until it wears off, and like, you know, like that era. I have those photos and they're fucking cool.
Were you posing your friends, or were you just capturing like a candid moment that was happening, like teenagers just like hanging out and having fun? Or did you have like a stylized frame in your mind when you were taking pictures of that?
I posed myself for photos. Like if I passed it off, like the one that I'm in, and I'll send this to you sometime for reference if you want to see it. But the one that I'm in, I'm wearing like a white slip dress, and I have my hair pulled back, and I'm standing in front of a mirror so that you can see like the back of it and the front of it. You know, like the instinct to do that is something that I always had and wanted to do. So my photos were always like that, but they get exponentially better when you start, you know, feeling like you're allowed to try and not be embarrassed about that.
So what inspired you to photograph yourself? 'Cause I know that's like a big part of your work now, and I think that's been a big part of your work like forever. Where did the original inspiration for that come from?
Probably having like an outsider complex image from the time that I was young and spending a lot of time by myself and being an only child. And then I had a sister who was 5 years younger than me who died in an accident, and then I was like an only child again. And my family got really quiet after that, and I was like even more, you know, isolated, it felt like to me. So when you spend a lot of time by yourself, that's a really comfortable place to be. So when you do something vulnerable, like try to make art when you feel like you don't, like I keep coming back to saying deserve it, but that's how it felt to me, you know. There wasn't any safer place to do that than by myself, you know, and that's probably part of it. I also like myself as a subject matter. Like I like, you know, I don't always like what I look like moving around in the world, but I like my malleable image. I like my body as like a tool. Like I like being able to use that. I've been using it forever, you know. It's like hammers have different weights and sizes and shapes, and you use them for different shit. But somebody who uses that thing like every day could pick it out of a lineup in a dark space and be like, this one is mine by the weight and how it feels in your hand. Like, I know how to use this to make it do what I need it to do. I think all the time about getting models to do the things I want to do, because I'll be like imagining how I can do a shot that I want to get, like to the point where I'm like, how could I string it from the ceiling? Because that's what I'm going to need to do. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to envision like the contraption, mousetrap circumstance of being able to get what I want. I was talking to Alex about how I want to take morning wake-up shots of us in the morning, but I don't want to disturb anyone in the bed, including the dogs, or the authenticity of what it is to wake up. So I've had these like brainstorm ideas about how to set it up to be able to do that. And I think about these things, and then I'm like, you don't have to do that. You can just get somebody else. Like you can get the model and stage the thing. But it wouldn't be the same. And I can't tell them what to do because I don't know what it is until I'm doing it. I don't have a clear idea. You know what I mean? I don't have a clear frame. I know what I want it to feel like, and I know how to do that. But I don't know how to give that to somebody else. And when I do, they're always fine. Like if, you know, like you tell the story of what you want it to look like or the idea of what it should look like, and the people that I work with who luckily are usually like somebody like you gets that for the most part. But not having to make that step, you know, to marry what you want to do with making someone else understand it and just doing it 30 times.
Do you feel like when you have a model perform the scene that you have in your head, do you feel like part of what makes it not the same for you is that when you first kind of envision the idea, it's you, and no matter how much you try to convey that onto another person, there's an element of them that's always going to come through. And do you feel like it's that makes it like less preferable to you being the one in the shot? Do you feel like something about like your actual self is centered very much in those
Probably.
scenes and images?
Yeah, like I don't think I'd quantified it that way, but I think it'd be silly to think that that's not part of it, you know, because again, it's like reaching for tools that you know, you imagine it this way, but also, you know, I'm getting ready to work with this girl named Casey that I've been really excited to work with for, I mean, we've been talking about it on and off. She's a girl I mentioned to Stanley's the other night. We've been talking about it on and off for like a few years, and because I like what she does on her own so much, I want it to be like unfettered. So my idea is still things that I initially envisioned myself in, but I didn't take it far enough to think about it any further than that, because I know that the project kind of belongs to somebody else.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this one's not mine. Like your birthday photos with those black balloons. Like once that was kind of a thing that was coming together, I was like, fuck, this is really cool. You know, but like I wouldn't shoot that myself. No. And it's not that you can't do the same thing again. I just wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, it's like once it's somebody else's, like it's somebody else's. I'll use those black balloons in a different way maybe some other time, or an adaptation of that. And I'll always have those little things in the back of my head. We shoot so often, you know, all of us. Like I have so many ideas. I shot today. I'll shoot tomorrow. You know, and most of the time that's just by myself. And another reason shooting by yourself works out so well is that the adaptation of your ideas can happen so naturally when there's no explanation or exposition required. You know, I walked outside yesterday intending to shoot in the street, and I did that. And then on the way in, I saw the big pile of Goodwill and dump stuff, and I was like, you know, I'm in my fancy dress. I could sit on this trash bag and be king of this fucking shit hill, you know, and that notion just tickled me, and so that's what I did. And those photos are dope. And I'd had this idea of like running through the back of my mind about how I want to be shooting into smaller spaces, like with myself on the other side, and have like kind of a cluttered space. And I've been fucking with that for like years. I made this wall of boxes and did it like 6 out of 10 success level a few years ago. And then yesterday I was like, oh, this is my chance to do that, because I have these piles of things. And that's all because that's like my library of like half-baked concepts. And I could stop and talk to you about those things, and none of them are like revolutionary, and it wouldn't be hard for you to understand it. Or I could just see it and put my camera here and do it.
I feel you on that.
Yeah.
How does fashion factor into your photographic work?
With less overtly and with less intention than I think probably people would suspect, but I care about fashion and I care about style more than fashion. I don't know exactly what the differentiation is, but my aesthetic in my mind feels like it's important, the differentiation between style and fashion. And I care about them both. And I care about style implicitly in every capacity. Like I care about like how hard you push your edit and how hard you push your stylized image and what that looks like to you. And I feel like, you know, you can sing your ass off, and if you make music that I don't want to listen to, I'm never going to hear it. You know? And I see people who, you know, like, it's like getting your hair cut from somebody who has, like, a really weird style and a bad haircut. You know, and I know those things are subjective, but, like, you look at what a person brings as, like, a composition, you know, and every photo is a composition, and the fashion might be part of it, and the styling might be part of it, but there's, you know, there's so much going on there. I don't feel like if you want it to be complete or good, you can afford to neglect anything. And that doesn't mean it has to be stylized. I mean, sometimes I'll think of things and I'm like, the point is specifically not what it looks like, so I'll pick like the plainest thing that I can find. Sometimes you just make a shape. Just make a shape, you know. But, yeah, I care about it.
You mostly photograph people. What is it about human subjects that draws you?
I will always photograph people more than any other subject matter. Sometimes when I feel like I need to take a break from humans, I will walk around specifically on a photo walker mission trying to get to know people, and that's when you get like neon lights and trees and flowers and things like that, and I love those things. But I rarely make an entire day's work out of those because it's like humans that engage me. And I know that people, when they're scrolling, like to see eyes, you know, and so sometimes that will influence the picture that I make, the front of my posts, which I also hate, but I want engagement. So I know that when we're looking, we're like kind of looking for, I think people are just looking for themselves. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's my theory about it in an obtuse way, but people are super interesting. And like what they look like and what they do and like what it looks like to move your body and how the shapes are made and like what light looks like on your face and things like, and all the things that I've learned about myself and not just my physicality, but like my system of value with relation to that, because that's something that was given to me and given to all of us, and that's just been completely rearranged by my experience with photography. And that gives me like it makes me look at other people differently because I look at myself differently. And that makes everybody like more beautiful and interesting to me, and they already fucking were. So that is the subject matter. Oh, I'll be driving down the street with, I'm almost crying about it. It's ridiculous. I care about it. And also, like, I really do think that. Like, I have these books of photos that are just, like, you're in it, like, 1,000 times. But are just filled with, like, really beautiful images of people. Most of whom I know, some of whom I don't. Because I never get my photos away because I'm a dick. So I'll, like, stop people on the street that I like the way they look and, like, take a photo of them. And they always think I'm going to give it to them. I'm like, okay, thanks. And I just take that shit. Because it's mine. And, you know, like, I don't mean to be rude about it, but, like, that's mine. And I have these books of them, and every time I look through those books, I imagine someone else looking at it later. Every time. Like, I'll look at them and I'll be like, these are so cool, but always I'm imagining it like a collection of, like, every blink that I took that was, like, the memorable one. It's, like, locked in this box.
Well, that actually kind of leads into the next thing I was going to ask you, which is, what do you want people to feel when they look at your work? So if I'd like you to answer that in a broad sense, but also if you are going through your photo albums of your pictures that you took, and every single time you do that, you also have this image of someone else going through them and looking at them, what do you want that person to feel when they're looking at it?
Oh, I'm a grandma. Like, I'm a grandmother. So, like, it's not as obtuse as imagining, like, some person and some opening a time capsule or some, you know, unknown face. Like, this is, like, family and lineage that I'm imagining. This is, like, Grace and Rosemary. I mean, it's not, like, faceless people or the idea of somebody where it's part of, like, a historical catalog of what 2023 looked like and how we all survived shitty fucking 2020. It's not like a time capsule for anyone. It's like a time capsule for them. And I think anyone would appreciate it because I think the photos are killer. But, like, you know, I remember thinking about my grandma. And I think about grandmas now. Like, them now. Them specifically. Mine. The ones that were, like, belonged to me. Even though I didn't really know them that well. One of them really well, but, like, you know, generations in time and space. Gravity. But this is like a catalog of that. You know? This is like a catalog of what my life looked like and, like, the parts of it that I love the most and was the most proud of. This is, like, the best of it.
In a broader sense, when we're talking about your work as a whole, and when we're talking about a more public audience, a stranger audience, just the general public looking at your work on Instagram or walking into anywhere you might have it displayed, from a more general place, what do you want people to feel when they look at your work?
Honestly, if you feel anything at all, it's more than half of... I mean, it's, like, more than I would ask for. Because we're inundated with, like, constant sensation in media. There are so many images that I see in a day, thousands and thousands of them. If you look at something that I made and you remember it into the next day, or it makes you stop for longer than it takes to glance at it and move on to the next one, like people do in museums with incredible pieces of work. If you stop for a second and you remember that, or if I put up enough of the same variety of things that make your eyes stop for a fucking fraction of a second that you would look at something and be like, oh, this looks like something Amy would do. That's incredible. Like, what feeling sensation you have about it, I mean, I guess it varies. If I put up something that was from a time that was, you know, felt poignant to me or big or carried a lot of weight, and I take a piece of photography moment to mark that, I felt it when it happened. And that's it. Do you know what I mean? Like, my experience exists as a permanent part of what that is, and your experience kind of doesn't matter. Like, I just never really think about that. I never really think about wanting them to feel anything. And if they do, that's incredible. Because most of us don't, like, we feel everything really hard, or 1,000 things pass us and we don't give them a second to feel anything at all. You know, you just see it and it goes by. Especially with art. Because there's so much art constantly. You know, you could spend 1 hour a day, which is significantly less than most people spend on the internet just looking at things, and you would have thousands of images in your eyeballs that day. You know? How can we ask people to have feelings about any... you know what I mean? You would die if you had feelings about all of that shit. So if you look at mine, any of them, 1 of 100, 1 of 1,000, and it makes you feel something, or it makes you think about a time in your life where you relate to it, even if it's just like... I look at your work sometimes and I'm like, oh, I wish I made that. Where I look at Sydney's shit and I'm like, that's so cool. Like, why does her brain work like that? That is enough. You know, even if you don't connect with, like, what the image was about, you could, if you look at it and you have a sensation that just catches you for a second, I'm good.
Do you think that you would feel differently about that if your work existed less in a digital format that people absorb so rapidly versus if your work only existed in a slower, more tangible place like, you know, in a museum or an art gallery?
Yes. I do think I would feel differently about it.
Do you think if you had that space where you knew that the viewers of your work had to take time to look at it the same way that if you as a patron walked into a gallery or museum and in order to look at the things you had to stop in front of them and look at them, do you think that that would like open up more space in you to say, here are more specific things that I want people to feel when they stand in front of a piece of my work and look at it?
In this scenario, for some reason, it seems inherently competitive to have that kind of space, and because of that, I feel like you would have to be... It's like working with film versus working with digital. Like, you'd have to be more specific and more succinct about when you click that space, because you can't put something up every day. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that would be really prohibitive for me and my process, because I need to make something. And I need to be making it every day. And I don't need anybody to see it, but like I need to be making it, and it keeps me going to have a place to put it. So as like chaotic and ridiculous as Instagram is, and as like desensitizing as things like that is my process. So the idea, it wouldn't change what I made or why I made it if I had to display it that way. It would just make me in my head about it. It would just because I don't want to make art in any other way. I don't want to have to consider what you feel about it, because I don't really make it for anybody but myself, I guess, as I'm saying that. And I don't want that to sound like when people are like, I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks, because if you say that, you do. And everybody does. Like, I care what people think, you know, and I want people to like it and engage with it, and I want it to be received with the care that I made it. But like outside of that, your interaction with it is totally your own, and I have no real feelings or thoughts about what that would be. And I don't think that there's any variety that of like form or how I would make the work that would make me feel differently about that.
So in a way, Instagram is kind of like the perfect platform for you.
Yeah, actually kind of, like, I hate how it's gone. You know, how it's like here and gone in a second, but like, I have ideas all the time, like every day. And there are also long-term projects. Like I'm working on the Heart project, and with the participants in the recovery community and that are incarcerated right now, that are in jail right now, like that means everything to me. And I don't even think about how people are going to feel about it because I feel so strongly about it. Like I read that postcard, that one I showed you, and I cry. Like it makes me cry, like every time. I don't care how they feel. Like I know what that work is. And on a smaller scale, I guess I just feel like that about everything. Like I know what it is, you know? Like I have my experience with it, and it feels really authentic and really valid, and it feels like that's the only one that matters. And my art has been misunderstood since I started making it. Since before I even could call it that, it's been misunderstood. I'm ready for that. Like I almost expect it. I have no exposition for you about what it is. I can't afford to care about like what people think about it, because that shit burned the fuck out of me, and it made me feel like I couldn't do it. So my response is to just make it for myself, and if you like it, you like it, and if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, like that shit's cool too.
What are some misconceptions that you think people have about you?
I feel like I put up work that has me in like kind of glamour plus clothing sometimes, and I don't really dress like that. And I think that because of the kind of work I put up, and because it features me so often, I think that people probably think that like my worldview is centered around myself, and that like my narrative is like very self-centered. I wonder if that's a part of it. I always wonder that because I feature myself so often. I don't think that's how I live, and I don't think that people who know me would think that. But you know, you are exactly what you put into your community in the world, not what you say you are, you know, or what people think that you are. So you just keep doing the things that you do and acting the way that you are, and like a lot of people end up catching on. And I've been doing this thing for a long time, and I think that maybe there are a lot of people who know that that's like just part of the image. But it's kind of funny if they don't, because I think if you met me in person, you'd be pretty surprised.
What would you say is the biggest challenge in your work?
I mean, there's never enough money. It's just like a problem that you deal with. Pretty much everything I shoot on, not as much now because I've been able to invest in my craft a little bit in the last year or so, but you know, the camera that I use every day, the only digital camera that I have, was given to me by a friend, you know, years ago who'd had it for a few years, and I love it, and I'll have it forever. And I don't know when I will ever buy another one, you know. I have like a secondhand tripod, and then I have like a plastic tripod. I don't have any lights right now because I lost one and I can't afford to buy another one. I've been wanting to go on a photo walk with a friend of mine, but I don't want to do that right now because I'm hoarding the film that I have, because film is really expensive, and I have a couple projects coming up, and I don't want to have to buy any more between now and then. And it's like $20 a pack for 8 shots. And so when you fuck one up, you're like, fuck. But at the same time, like, you can't not try. So you're like, well, that's how it goes. So you gotta be kind of stingy about it. I hate that. I think I hate that it's cost prohibitive sometimes, but at the same time, like, making $1 out of 15 cents is not anything new. And I also learned a lot from having to do, like, analog creative stuff. I mean, I'm gonna make my zine in a cut and paste fashion with my handwriting as the font, because that's how I came up. And it's not that I think it's charming, and it's definitely not easy. It's just that it feels like where I live, you know, and I don't think I've outgrown that yet. So that's where I'm going to stay. But I also don't really always know what I'm doing. So sometimes I show up and I'm intimidated by the fact that I literally am like, I don't know how to set this. And it's like I panic every time. And then I get a few, you know, minutes into it and I'm like, wait, I know. I'll be all right. But I don't know when I'm going to get over that sensation of being like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I've forgotten everything. I have no idea how to set it. I don't know what to do. What are these buttons? Whose camera is this? Every time. And then I'm like, oh, I'm okay. Sydney told me a long time ago, like our first or second shoot, if you have an idea that's your favorite one or a thing you know you really want to get shots of and you're doing a few things that day, to not to make it your first one ever. Maybe make it your second one. Because the first one isn't necessarily like a warm-up, but it kind of is, especially for me. And that was really good advice. Because I think about that every time that I'm like, well, we'll do this and this and this. And I'm like, but let's start here. So I can like remember that I know how to fucking do this.
Interesting. Yeah. This is kind of a broad question, so you can answer it however it makes the most sense to you. But how would you describe your creative process?
I like to create in a number of different ways. Photography is the way that most people know. I also write some and always have. Poetry and short stories. I used to like needlecraft. I used to embroider a lot. I used to crochet even more. I'm always doing like something. I used to do like fine line ink drawing, you know. I read tarot, which is also kind of creative outlet because it's essentially storytelling. But my process is usually to just start because that's the hardest thing for me. And I haven't ever really done the diligence to properly educate myself on any of these things. Maybe tarot. I read a lot. Spent a bunch of years. I learned as much as I could, you know, and then the rest of it is intuition. But like, I learned that my camera could do something really basic like 2 years into having it. Because I finally looked it up on a manual that I've had sitting in a shelf forever and was like, what the fuck? Like, I could have saved myself all this time. But I'm never like that. I'm always just like, I have an idea. I'm going to grab this thing and do it. Like, I have an idea is my creative process. And it's every day about something. So many of them. It doesn't bother me not to act on them, and it doesn't bother me not to get them done because there are so many. There's always a thing I want to be doing. So just starting it, just picking up anything and starting it, it doesn't really matter what it is, just anything and starting it, that's my whole process. I rarely go into it with expectations. And I never feel like I fail. And I think that really helps me. Because I talk to a lot of people who feel like, you know, this was a failure. And I might say that this was a failure as an attempt, but I don't ever feel bad about it. Do you know what I mean? Like I tried this and I got nothing today. Like, fucking nothing. You know, 40 photos of nothing I want to use. But I never feel bad about that.
Right.
Like, it doesn't bum me out.
Does it feel more like this didn't work versus I didn't achieve this? Like, it's a separation from you personally. If something doesn't work out, it's not like,
I mean, yes
you
and no.
failed at it.
Because I feel like I am the person who's responsible for it, and I am the person who didn't achieve what I was trying to do. So I did fail at it. But I don't feel like that's a problem. It is personal. I did do it. You know what I mean? Like, I fucked that up. The other day, I took 3 sets, the digital camera timed sets with the 35mm lens, and I would get the focus set up, and then I would move myself in front of it, and the focus would all fuck up. You know what I mean? And, like, I do that all the time. And a lot of times, it's fine. But for whatever reason, I could not. 3 different times I tried to do it, and it was wrong all 3 times. And I absolutely fucked that up. Like, there is a way to get that right, and I could not figure out what it was. You know what I mean? But that's the whole story.
What is your dream project?
I mean, I'm kind of doing it. The project at the jail is kind of my dream project. Just because it marries, like, everything that I care about and puts it in one place. Like, I get to have this experience that is really memorable and feels really important to me every time that I participate, and I also get to make art out of it. And I make art that I'm sure that the kind of people who are the kind of people I care about and resonate with will care about it like I do. You know, like, it feels important when I look at it, I'm like, this shit matters. These people matter, I care about it. Like, I want to be there. I can't, the idea that I could use something that I feel like I'm still learning, just a handful of years in, that I could have, like, found a way to get myself into this place where I get to be witness to and, like, part of something that actually fucking matters to real people. Like, that's incredible. Like, I just started this thing at the jail in July, and one of the participants has died. Like, she died. She overdosed and died, you know? And I have all these photos of her. And we found out about it, and Sydney and I got all of our photos together and, like, edited them and got them to her family. Like, I had no idea that my work would be used in that way. I understood the gravity of what they're experiencing and the gravity of what my role there is. And I knew that that was going to happen, but it happens there a lot. And I didn't think it was going to happen so soon. And that's when I realized how frequent this experience is part of that experience. And the idea that photo work that I took would show somebody being, like, healthy and well and cared for and loved at this part of their life that was really fucking hard. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine, like, your photos being used for that? Like, that's incredible. That's exactly what I want to do. So I'm going to try to do that forever.
Who or what inspires you?
I mean, I feel like if you're a person who has, like, a lot of ideas and thoughts, you're inspired all the time. Like, I see things all the time. Like, I'm somebody who's always going to be like, that's really cool. That's so fucking cool. I think a lot more than I'm like, I hate it. Maybe not. I say I hate it a lot, but usually I'm kind of kidding. When I say I love something, I always mean it. And I say that a lot, too. Most of the time when I say I hate it, I'm kidding, because I think that that's funny, and I like having a prickly pear image, and I like that, but I'm, you know, very soft in the middle. And I think almost everything is cool. And I think almost everybody I meet, like, there's something, like, that's probably why I date so many fucking jerks. Because there's, like, something about everybody that I can and want to relate to and see. I want to. Like, I want to see you. Pretty much everybody. There's, like, 5 of you that I don't want to see. But, like, pretty much everybody, I kind of want to see you. And if you fuck it up, I'm, like, real fine with a snip. Like, I never need to see you again. I'm looking at people all the time. Looking at people all day. But, like, I do want to see you. And, like, meet you, almost everybody. And I want to take your picture. And see what that shit looks like.
What is one piece of art, like a specific piece of art, that you think everyone should experience?
The dance of waiting tables. I'm not even kidding. That shit is so fucking artful and incredible. If I thought I could get away with taking photos of it and not disrupt it or ruin it, its majestic wonder, I would do it. Yeah, like the sensation
I love that that's your answer.
The sensation of being part of something that is so, like, incredibly orchestral when you get it right, and is so much, like, movement and fluid and flow and looks so fucking cool. That shit looks really cool. Like, I worked in a diner, and there would be, like, people in front of me, like, moving around in these ways that, like, you could not even choreograph if you fucking tried. That shit looks so cool. Like, it's so colorful, and there's so many people doing so many weird fucking things. Like, a family of 4 that's going to eat an entire bottle of ketchup in one sitting. Like, how? How did you do that? I would take pictures of that. Why? You know what I mean? Like, that is my fucking lane. It's so busy and so noisy and so many things that I want to see happening in such a cool, intricate way that nobody's paying attention to but me, or at least that's what it feels like. I love that shit. That's what photography is. Like, it's when you feel like you got the thing that nobody else was paying attention to. Like, you feel like you got that moment. You know what I mean? Like, there's a bunch of people, we're all taking pictures of the baby panda or whatever, but, like, you get under the side thing and you get it from the side and you've got, like, bamboo and it's in its hair or something. Like, who fucking knows? Like, you get the little moment that you feel like was your thing that you got to see that nobody else saw for just a second. It's cool.
All right, and my very last question. What's next?
I want to take more portraits of people in their homes doing regular things with their families and their dogs. Not necessarily like slice of life stuff, but I guess that, because that's what I'm describing. I don't want to be like family portrait photographer, but I do want to, like, I guess make more editorial images of real shit, because I keep seeing other people do that and in ways that feels like really fresh to me, and I'm like, wow, that shit's really cool. Like, you feel like it's a dynamic that's been done a million times before because you've seen it, and then you see somebody else do it in a different way and you're like, yes, we can do this. I think that's why I don't really take landscapes. Because there are people who do it in a different way, but I don't really understand what that is, because there's only really one way to do that for me. My brain sees that in one dimension. It's Ansel Adams forever. And I know that that's reductive, and, like, I know that there's somebody who's going to be like, how about this one? And I'm going to be like, that's cool as fuck. Because that is. But, like, that's why I'm taking people. And I want to take more stuff at the jail. And I want to do more community-oriented work. And I want to, learn how to be better at shooting stuff outdoors. And I want to figure out how to use my Polaroid with more skill and grace, so that when I get those photos that I love so much, it keeps me in the medium. They feel less lucky and more intentional. And I want to make art with my friends, and I want to wear weird clothes when I do it. And I want to make stylized shit. And I want to wear underwear as outerwear all fucking winter long, and invest in weird coats at the thrift store, and wear 4 of them at a time with my friends in my yard. I would like to get paid also. Not like a lot, but like a little bit. If I could work 3 shifts a week at the restaurant and get paid enough money through photography where I could live and buy film, that's what I want.
Word.
Word.
All right, that's it. Say bye.
Bye.